Welcome back to the deep dive. We are going deep into Hollywood this time.
Ooh, exciting.
Oh, yeah, this one's
I
juicy.
love a good Hollywood story.
Yeah, and this is like especially interesting because it's all happening as we speak,
That's
right?
unfolding in real time, yeah.
Yeah. So all this stuff is coming out, like new emails and court filings are coming out every
It's
day.
wild.
So,
And even some video clips have been
well,
released.
yeah, so it's like we get to be right there in the middle of it all, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, you really get a sense of the behind-the-scenes drama.
Right. And like you always say, it's not just about like the gossip, right? So
No,
no,
no.
this is about like how power works.
Exactly. This is about understanding the mechanics of power in Hollywood and how people wield that power.
Right. And like how far some people will go to protect their image.
Absolutely. Image is everything in this town.
So let's set the stage here. Who are our main players in this drama?
Okay, so we've got A-listers, Ryan Reynolds, and Blake Lively.
Oh, big names.
Huge names. And they're facing off against actor and director Justin Baldoni
Okay.
and his production company, Wayfair Studios.
So Baldoni, he's the guy from Jane the Virgin, right?
Yes, that's right. He played Raphael L.
Oh, and he also directed that movie 5 Feet Apart.
Yep. That was his directorial debut, and it was a big success.
Okay, so he's a pretty big deal himself.
He's definitely on the rise, yeah. And this situation, though.
This is taking him to a whole other level of Hollywood intrigue.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so what exactly is this whole saga about?
Well, the catalyst for all of this is a lawsuit.
Ooh, juicy.
Yeah. Blake Lively is suing Justin Baldoni over the production of their film, It Ends With Us.
So it's like a movie about a movie.
Kind of, yeah.
All right, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So the film is based on a novel about domestic violence, which actually makes the allegations in the lawsuit even more surprising.
Okay, so what is Lively claiming exactly?
Well, the lawsuit claims that Ryan Reynolds was really worried about being away from Lively during the filming.
Makes sense. They seem like a very close couple.
Yeah, very much so. But apparently Reynolds was so concerned that he tried to interfere with the production schedule.
Really? How so?
Well, leaked text messages suggest that he offered a rather unconventional incentive to the line producer to move filming up by 2 weeks.
Well, like a bonus or something?
Not quite. He proposed having the line producer's face tattooed on a very private part of his anatomy.
Whoa, okay, that's a little out there.
Yeah, a bit strange to say the least, and especially considering the serious subject matter of the film.
Right. Domestic violence isn't exactly a laughing matter.
No, not at all. And to make things even more odd, Reynolds also used some, let's say, interesting promotional tactics.
Oh, like what?
Well, he was making jokes about Lively replacing him as a husband and father.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was all a bit tone deaf given the topic of the movie.
It seems like he was almost making light of the situation.
Yeah, it definitely rubbed some people the wrong way.
So we've got alleged interference with the production schedules, some strange promotional choices. What else is Lively claiming?
Well, the most serious accusation is that Reynolds and Lively tried to pressure Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios into releasing a false statement.
What do you mean a false statement?
Essentially, they wanted Baldoni and Wayfarer to take the blame for any problems with the production.
Oh, wow. To protect Lively's reputation.
Exactly.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, if that's true, it really makes you wonder about the power dynamics at play here.
So where does this whole PR war come into it?
Ah, yes, the PR battle.
I love a good PR showdown.
Well, as you can imagine, a Hollywood scandal of this magnitude attracts a whole swarm of PR professionals.
Right, gotta control the narrative.
Exactly. So initially you've got Jones Works PR representing Wayfarer and Baldoni,
Okay.
and Vision PR is handling Lively and Reynolds.
All right, got it.
Then we also have Melissa Nathan, who comes in as Baldoni's crisis PR manager.
Oh, so like a PR team for his PR team.
It's perception.
I love it. Okay, so what happens next?
We'll buckle up because things are about to get really messy.
Oh, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
So a partner at Jones Works, Jennifer Abel, decides to leave
Okay.
and start her own firm, and guess who she takes with her as clients?
Let me guess, Baldoni and Wayfair.
Bingo.
So it's like a double betrayal.
Right, betrayal of her old firm, and maybe even of Lively and Reynolds, who she was technically working for as part of Jones Works.
Wow, that's cold.
It gets worse.
Oh, no.
The head of Jones Works, Stephanie Jones, saw this as a huge betrayal.
Understandably.
Right, so on Abel's last day at Jones Works, Stephanie Jones allegedly had Abel's laptop and phone confiscated.
Wait, like raided her devices?
Yep. Apparently, they were looking for any evidence of collusion between Abel and Baldoni.
That seems pretty extreme.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. Stephanie Jones's husband, Jason Hodes, is a senior partner at William Morris Endeavor,
Okay.
and WME is the agency that later dropped Baldoni.
Whoa. Okay, so it's like all these connections and potentially conflicting interests.
Exactly. It really gives you a glimpse into the complex web of relationships and power dynamics in
It's
Hollywood.
like a real-life soap opera.
It really is.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to this story that could change everything.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What is it?
Remember how we said that Lively and Reynolds were accused of trying to force a false statement?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like Baldoni and Wayfarer might have anticipated that something like this could happen,
Okay.
and they took a pretty drastic step to protect themselves.
Oh, what did they do?
They started recording their conversations.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, and I'm not just talking about taking notes. It seems like they were recording full audio of their meetings and phone calls.
Wow, from the very beginning.
Possibly. Yeah, maybe someone warned them that things could get messy.
So they were like secretly taping everything.
Potentially. Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, New Jersey, where they were filming, is a one-party consent state.
So it's illegal.
Yep. As long as one person in the conversation consents to the recording, it's perfectly admissible in court.
So these recordings, if they exist, they could be a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. They could contain conversations with studio executives, agents, all sorts of key players.
And it would all be on tape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine hearing firsthand how decisions were made, deals were negotiated, how these powerful people really talk behind closed doors.
Wow, it's like having a direct line into the inner workings of Hollywood.
Exactly.
But how did these recordings even come to light? And what about that whole thing with the online speculation and Taylor Swift?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. We'll dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, so last time we were talking about those secret recordings.
Oh, yeah. Those could be huge.
Right, like completely changed the game.
For sure. But before we get into that, you mentioned something about a smear campaign.
Oh, yeah, and Taylor Swift was somehow involved.
Right. It's a pretty wild twist.
Yeah, like how does she even fit into all of this?
Well, let's start with that alleged smear campaign.
Okay.
And this is where things get a bit technical, but it's important because it shows how online sleuths can uncover some crazy stuff.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So these internet detectives were digging into articles and social media posts about Baldoni,
All right.
and they discovered something called metadata.
Metadata? What's that?
So think of it like a digital footprint.
Okay.
Every time a file is created or shared, it leaves behind this hidden trail of information.
So like a secret code?
Kind of.
Yeah.
And this metadata suggested that the New York Times was working on a negative story about Baldoni.
Really?
Yeah, and get this, it was way before Lively even filed her lawsuit.
So someone was trying to make Baldoni look bad before Lively made her move.
It definitely seems that way.
That's messed up.
Right, and remember that confiscated phone we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, some of the text messages Baldoni and his PR team exchanged about Lively,
Okay.
those were meant to be private.
Right.
But somehow they ended up in the hands of the New York Times.
What? How is that even possible?
That's the million-dollar question. Nobody seems to know how those texts got leaked.
So it's like a whole other layer of mystery.
Exactly, and it adds fuel to the fire.
Makes you wonder if there was a coordinated effort to smear Baldoni.
Right, were they trying to discredit him before he could even defend himself?
So what did the New York Times say when they were confronted with this metadata evidence?
Their response was interesting.
How so?
They addressed one specific claim about the metadata,
Okay.
but they completely ignored the more damning evidence.
The stuff that made Lively look bad.
Exactly. It's like they were trying to sweep that part under the rug.
So shady.
Right. It definitely raises questions about their objectivity in this case.
Okay, but what about Taylor Swift?
Yes, the Taylor Swift connection.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one.
Well, you got to remember, this is Hollywood.
Where image is everything.
Exactly. And Taylor Swift is like the queen of image control.
Right. She's got that whole good girl next door thing going on.
Exactly. So when this whole scandal broke, a story came out that Swift was distancing herself from Lively.
Oh, to avoid the negative press?
Right. Damage Control 101.
Makes sense, but it still seems a little calculated.
Well, Swift's publicist, Tree Payne, is known for being incredibly strategic.
She's like a PR mastermind.
Exactly. She's a master at shaping the narrative.
So you're saying someone might have planted that story about Swift and Lively?
It's definitely possible, and it would be a very smart move.
Protect Swift's image at all costs.
Exactly. Because any association with a scandal like this could tarnish her reputation.
Wow. It's crazy how much goes on behind the scenes.
Right. You never know what's really going on.
Okay, so we've got alleged smear campaign, the Taylor Swift connection, and those potentially explosive recordings.
Yeah, those recordings could be a real game changer.
I can't even imagine what's on them.
Who knows what they might reveal?
Did studio execs express concerns about Lively's behavior?
Were they pressured into giving in to her demands?
It's like a Hollywood mystery.
But even without those recordings, this lawsuit paints a pretty unflattering picture of Lively and Reynolds.
Yeah, they come across as pretty entitled.
And manipulative.
Like they think they can just bully their way into getting what they want.
Right, this case really exposes the dark side of power in Hollywood.
And the potential for abuse.
If those recordings do surface and support Baldoni's claims, this could have huge consequences for Lively and Reynolds.
And even for powerful agencies like WME.
It's a David and Goliath story for the 21st century.
Except instead of a slingshot, David has a stack of audio recordings.
Exactly, and those recordings could bring down some giants.
And Lively's lawyer has even hinted that they might add more parties to the lawsuit.
Really?
Yeah, including members of the media.
So it's like the scandal is spreading.
And we're just watching it all unfold.
It's like a real-life soap opera.
Okay, but there's one thing that's been bugging me.
What's that?
You mentioned that the movie they were making, It Ends With Us, is about domestic violence.
Right.
Like, how does that even factor into all of this?
That's a great question, and the irony isn't lost on anyone.
It's like a movie about abuse being produced in an abusive environment.
Exactly. It raises questions about hypocrisy and double standards.
Like, are they just playing a role, or are they actually living this out?
It's a disturbing thought.
It makes you wonder how much of what we see in Hollywood is just a facade.
Right. Are they just projecting an image that's totally different from reality?
But you know what's really fascinating to me?
What's that?
This whole case highlights the importance of controlling the narrative.
Oh, absolutely.
Both sides are fighting to shape how the public perceives them.
And the media is caught in the middle.
It's like a war of information.
And the winner gets to control the story.
But even with all the spin and manipulation, the truth has a way of coming out.
It always does.
So what else have you uncovered in these documents that we should be paying attention to? Oh, yeah. What was that movie again?
It Ends With Us.
Yeah.
It's based on a book about an abusive relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
And that just makes this whole thing even weirder.
Definitely ironic, given the accusations flying around.
It's like, wow, a movie about abuse being made in such a toxic environment.
It really adds another layer of complexity to this whole saga.
Yeah. But I guess that's Hollywood for you.
It kind of seems like it's a...
So we've been talking about all these power struggles and the PR battles and the secret recordings and all that, but
Yeah, lots to unpack here.
what does it all really mean in the end? Like, what's the big takeaway from this whole deep dive?
I think this case really shows us how image-obsessed Hollywood is.
Oh, for sure.
Like, perception is everything in that town.
And sometimes even more important than the truth.
Exactly, and people will do almost anything to protect their reputations, even if it means bending the truth or manipulating the media.
It's like they're living in a totally different world.
Yeah, a world where the rules are different.
And the fact that Baldoni and Wayfair felt like they had to record everything,
Right from the very beginning.
it just shows how paranoid and distrustful that whole environment is.
It's like everybody's looking over their shoulder, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
And for anyone listening out there, it's a good reminder,
To take everything you see and read about celebrities
especially in the media,
with a giant grain of salt.
because you never really know what's going on behind the scenes.
There are always hidden agendas and power plays at work.
It's all about controlling the narrative.
Right, shaping the story to fit your own interests.
But even with all the spin and manipulation,
The truth has a way of coming out eventually.
yeah, it always seems to find a way.
And that's what makes this case so interesting.
It's like a battle between image and reality.
And the possibility that even powerful people can be held accountable.
But this story's far from over, right?
Oh yeah, this thing could get even crazy.
But those recordings potentially coming out.
And maybe even more lawsuits.
Who knows what's going to happen next?
It's like a real-life thriller.
But I'm hooked. I want to see how it all plays out.
Well, we'll be here to break it all down for you as it unfolds.
This deep dive has been wild.
It's been a roller coaster ride, that's for sure.
But that's why we love doing this show.
We get to dig deep into these fascinating stories,
And uncover the truth.
no matter how messy or complicated it might be.
So until next time, keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, and don't believe everything you read.